What's going on, all you minties? This is the Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and join me today as I take an advanced look at the Flash of Two Worlds Deluxe Edition from DC Comics. So please stay tuned. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to say a quick thank you to the folks at DC Comics for sending us an advanced copy of this book. This book comes out on February 26th, and it will be out at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble a couple of weeks later. So the very first thing I want to do is compare this new deluxe edition to other collected edition formats from DC. So you have a trade paperback right here, so it's bigger than that. Here is a standard size hardcover, obviously bigger than that since all of these are just the size of trade paperbacks. And here it is compared to the size of a deluxe edition. This happens to be one of the Rebirth deluxe editions. So it's the exact same height as one of those. But as you could probably tell, I hope from the video, it's not as long. At least the board is not as long as one of those. So that's a little bit different. Let me get it just a little closer so you can see what I mean. There's about that much more of the old deluxe edition. It's a really small, almost insignificant size difference. So here is the book and the spine of the book. Flash of Two Worlds, all the creators and the DC logo, and then the back telling you a little bit about the story and why it's so important. And the price, $29.99 is the retail price. Let's look at this book. Okay, I like the way that the words are embedded in there. That's nice. DC logo, the spine, and nothing in the back. Now let's get this opened. Okay. I like the brown bookend pages. Flash of Two Worlds Deluxe Edition. So here's your table of contents. There is an introduction by Geoff Johns and Paul Levitz. I'll look at those here in a second. But before I do, here's all the folks that put the collected edition together. Jeb Woodard, Scotty Nebekin. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And Steve Cook. Just to name a few. I am known to have butchered names, so keep that in mind. Introduction by Geoff Johns. And reading this introduction, this is one from 2009, and there's also a foreword by Paul Levitz. Now, reading the introduction by Geoff Johns reminded me of how alike we are, or how much we have in common with DC Comics. So you may have seen this cover right here from Flash 123. It's probably one of the most iconic covers from any comic book in the Silver Age, or any comic book, period. So we have the character of Barry Allen, and then we have the character of Jay Garrick. Barry Allen representing the DC Universe, or Silver Age comics, and Jay Garrick representing Golden Age comics. Yeah, so Showcase number 4 is probably known as the very first Silver Age comic, and that is the first appearance of Barry Allen Flash. So through a series of events, I'm not going to reveal how, even though the story is old, Barry Allen is transported to the world of Jay Garrick. Now, it's not known as Earth 2 during this time, but it will be later on. And that sets like this new standard for DC. Because Barry Allen becoming the Flash was actually partly due to the fact that he used to read comic books featuring Jay Garrick as the Flash. And I know that's a little bit confusing and a little weird, but that's the way it was back then. Like, that's part of the reason why he became the hero known as the Flash, because he was inspired by the original Flash character from the comic books to become a hero. And they have a very similar origin story. So he's sharing with him, and Jay's like, well, I guess I'm not a comic book. Maybe it's just parallel worlds. It's the same Earth, just different worlds, or dimensions, rather. And that's pretty much the story of Flash 123. And then it was such a popular story, and it's known as the first multiverse story. I think there was a Wonder Woman story that preceded this, but I think this is probably known throughout fandom as the very first multiverse story, where DC was like, okay, these are different Earths, we're going to make this a one-time deal. And no, I mean, eventually this happened a lot because fans were they loved the idea of the two Flashes working together. So I'll tell you what else this contains here in a second besides Flash 123. Because this eventually, led into the Crisis on Earth 1 and Crisis on Earth 2, when the Justice Society and the Justice League of America teamed up, even though they were from different Earths. And another thing that's pretty interesting about these stories is that this was the brainchild of Gardner Fox, who was the co-creator of Jay Garrick too. So it's really cool to see him do both of the characters. The artwork is done by Carmine Infantino, who I think if you were to ask any Flash fan from the Silver Age, they would tell you that he was probably the best artist for the character of the Flash. Now, as I mentioned, this collects other stories too. So you have Flash 123, which is that classic story. You have Flash 129, 137, 151, and 173. And they're just different team-ups between Barry Allen Flash and Jay Garrick Flash, as they beat different rogues from both of their worlds. So it's pretty interesting, and I think to me it's such an iconic moment for comic book historians and just comic book fans in general, that I mean, this set the way for everything. If we would not have Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Flashpoint, had not been for this story, for the idea that these different Earths can exist in different dimensions. I mean, I don't know. I say that, but then maybe somebody would have come up with it years later. But I don't think it would have happened as fast, though. So that's why these stories are so important. Now, I've talked about how I'm not the biggest fan of the Golden and Silver Age, but I do appreciate what they were. Now, I will say I have read most of these stories that are in this collection because those are the kind of stories I was trying to get into with Barry Allen, because I love Wally West so much that I was like, well, I'm going to check out what else Barry Allen had to offer back in his day, and before him, Jay Garrick. Yeah, but I don't know. I never made that connection. I'm sure there's stories out there that people will recommend to me, but I'm always open for suggestions. Now, let's see if there's anything in the back. It looks like it's just biographies. Sadly, I don't think all these people are just gone. The creators behind this, like Murphy Anderson, Sid Green, Julie Schwartz. I know she passed away in 2004. Gardner Fox, he passed away in the 80s. And you have Carmine Infantino, Joe Giella, and John Broome. And I think he passed away in the late 90s. You have all this talent, from the Silver Age and from the Golden Age before that in here. The book is at 160 pages. As far as the paper quality of the book, it's this thick matte paper they've been using lately, usually found in trade paperbacks or in the latest versions of the deluxe editions from the Rebirth line, like the Batman Deluxe Edition Volume 4, for example. Now, let's look at this binding, because I'm sure you could probably tell, well, maybe not really. It is sewn binding. There you go. There's all the page bunches together down there. So, sewn binding for a book like this. It's 160 pages. And like I mentioned, comes out on February 26th. And if you're interested in this book, you can purchase it from cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off the cover price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. And check out their bargain bin for even greater deals up to 90% off cover price. And for you minties, Cheap Graphic Novels is running a special promotion. If you're a first-time customer, let them know you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discounts, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. Now, that was the contents of the book, the page count, and the quick comparison to other collected editions from DC. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've ever read this, if you've never read it and you're going into it blind, or if you're just passing up on something like this because it doesn't interest you because of the Silver Age, or perhaps that the multiverse isn't something that you're into. Yeah, again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button, notifications button, and we can be found on Patreon and Redbubble. And most importantly, if it's classy and cool, it must be near mint.